Minister pledged that China will continue to promote high-level opening up and protect the rule-based international economic and trade order. He added that China's membership in the EPA will create more market opportunities. U.S. tariffs dominated discussions at the APEC meeting. Xinhan reports from Jeju Island on key agenda items.
Well, working-level negotiations running late into the night on Thursday and into Friday here on Jeju Island here in South Korea. South Korea, of course, is this year's APEC chair, and that's why these preparatory meetings are taking place here in the country. It also happens to be the first multilateral sort of gathering of trade officials since the U.S. Trump administration announced its sweeping tariffs. We also know, but not just including the main event, but there's a lot of negotiation happening on the sidelines of these talks. Just at the beginning of these meetings, APEC releasing an annual report, an analysis report saying that the Trump tariffs would really downgrade the region's exports. If you consider half of the world's exports occur in this region, APEC is now projecting global exports to be about 0.4% this year. That compared to more than 5% last year. And also in terms of economic growth, there's going to be a downgrade of 3.3 down to 2.4%. So that's sort of the impact that APEC is sort of analyzing with these Trump tariffs. What's also happening is there's a lot of negotiations happening on the sidelines, and especially with the presence of U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer here in Jeju Island, there have been a slew of talks on the sidelines with nations trying to get some leverage in their talks, including South Korea.
That was Xinhan reporting. He has met Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Medinsky said his team has a constructive mindset. Michal Bartvet reports.
Russian and Ukrainian delegations have failed to come together on Thursday in Istanbul for much-anticipated direct talks between the two countries, the first of its kind since March 2022. Late on Wednesday evening, Russian President Vladimir Putin had announced he wouldn't be attending the Istanbul talks and instead sent a lower-level delegation. The Russian delegation included presidential advisor Vladimir Medinsky, a senior diplomat, and defense officials. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky traveled to Ankara to meet with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Prior to their meeting, Zelensky called the Russian delegation decorative. But after talks with Erdogan, Zelensky announced that he would send a Ukrainian delegation to Istanbul, led by Ukraine's defense minister, with a mandate to discuss a ceasefire. In Istanbul, the head of the Russian delegation, Vladimir Medinsky, said they were prepared to resume negotiations with Ukraine and would discuss possible compromises with Kiev. U.S. officials were also present in Turkey. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, stressed that a breakthrough on Ukraine would only happen when President Trump interacts directly with his Russian counterpart, Putin. EU leaders have also mounted pressure and said new sanctions will be imposed if there's no progress in ceasefire talks this week.
What everyone's talking about right now is how the tariffs could affect us and our jobs.
The disruption caused by U.S. tariffs is becoming clearer, especially with the decline in the number of container ships coming from China.
So again, it's going to be interesting to see what the unintended consequences may be, which is loss of jobs. And of course, when you lose jobs, unemployment goes up, there's less consumer spending, and 2/3 of our GDP is based on consumer spending. So if you look at that formula, we have concerns about the future.
The CEO of the Port of LA says every 4 containers means a job, and he predicts a sharp decline in dock work for employees.